Alright, so we've made our two-part mold. Now we're going to work on the core. So we're going to separate some of these fingers, like the thumb and pinky and ring finger, to make it easier to remove your silicone glove once you've cast it in silicone. Adding keys to the separated bits. We're going to be using magnets obviously to hold them together, so holes for the magnets. Then the touchdowns around the place, like touching onto the actual sculpt from all directions, so we're pretty much guaranteed that it won't have a thin spot. It's going to be even 2 mil or whatever this is. And then hollowing out the core, and we'll have a pour tube coming out of here. And yes, let's get into it. Okay, so at this point I would make a new save file to avoid all this clutter. So save this as part 2, and we'll find our core and front and back mold. So let's append everything that we need. So core, just make sure it's actually the core that you were working on, because we had a couple of different ones. We want our 6mm bolts. Do not delete those. So bring that in. So add the bolts and then go around and delete everything except these 4. Alright, so we've cleared everything up. We've got our front, back, core, and bolts. We can delete all the side flange bolts that we don't need. We'll go auto groups and just select them, invert selection, delete hidden, done. Okay, touchdowns. BIH, insert primitives, cylinder. Make sure when you've got the cylinder selected, go to brush and depth, and just make sure this is embedded maybe to about 85, 80 something, just so that when you insert these, they're actually going into the surface, not floating above, because we need these to be going in, and then we're going to dynamesh them so they're nice and perfectly flat. And you can either have them like this on the mold or have them on your core. I don't think there's a problem doing it either way. We'll start with the back of the hand, and you want to do them on flat surfaces. Like, I wouldn't be inserting my touchdowns on here. You're gonna get some bad results. You want it flat where it's gonna be stable. Wherever you don't want it to go thin, you put one of these and you space them out. So there's 1, 2, and you want to get the sides as well. Now it gets tricky here because we've got so much detail, but just find the flattest spot, like there. These are all going to be shorter once we've booleaned them with the core. Maybe one here, as long as it's penetrating through. Like, see, this one is not. Got to be careful of that. Just bring it all the way down. Maybe lengthen it. Maybe one more in the side. See, that's going to prevent it from slumping. Let's go to the front hand mold, and we can do the same thing. Drag out, control. Go back to the sides. Always use live boolean to check that your touchdowns are long enough. Get your core, put it on subtractive, and just turn on one side of your mold, live boolean. So we can see the core is red on this side. There's red here, all good. And we can see this is not fully touching. Let's go back and pull that out to touch the core, or go beyond the core. Just do the same for the front. All pink. Alright, well, we can leave the touchdowns for now. So we'll go back to our core and we'll start separating the thumb and these two fingers. So to do that, append a cube, select it, go down to initialize and cube. So it's nice and simple. Turn on transparency. Make sure it's encompassing the whole thumb. And without getting things like this, so that might have been too much. Let's go back, rotate it a bit more this way. And you can just test that by going back to your live boolean. See, we've caught a little bit of the index. So you do intersecting, or you can do subtractive, doesn't matter. Just gives you an idea. So there's the thumb. Turn off live boolean. We can do that again. Append another cube, initialize cube, and we'll do it for these ones. So we might put an angle on this. Select these set of points. So now we start adding keys onto this. Let's start renaming things again. So this can be the pinky ring cutter. This one, thumb cutter. Very basic geometry here, so you'll go on BIH, trusty half sphere, and it's not going to work very well because you want to attach it to a point, and there's only a few points around. So what you can do is you can either do crease and subdivide, or go to Z modeler, BZM, and just add a bunch of points. So then you could go and maybe crease all. Okay, so we'll try that again. BIH, half sphere, and let's embed this even further, about 32, and put pinky cutter on intersecting so we can see. So let's drag that out. And we'll put our magnet down here somewhere, or maybe in the middle, and we'll put a key all the way here. So if we put on subtractive, we can see they're not doing their job, so close holes, and there you go. Next we're going to add magnet holes here, and I'm using a 10mm by 3mm disc magnet, 2 kg pull force. You want to go pretty strong here. Don't want these wobbling around. So just append cylinder 3D. So you can also check your scene scale and do it by hand. Just scaling it with a gizmo. So yeah, if the magnet is 3mm deep, we want this to be 6mm deep to accommodate both of them. So we're nearly at 10mm for the circumference, or diameter, sorry. Yeah, 10.5mm. That's good. And 6.68mm depth. That's enough wiggle room. So there's our magnet. 2 magnets that we're going to use to boolean the hole for the magnet to sit in. So we'll just paint 1/2 red, 1/2 blue, and then we'll start putting it in. So I'm going to throw that in. Let's turn on live boolean and we're going to place this. So it looks like we're going to have to manually place this because it takes a very long time to find the brush size or draw size to make your insert brush be exactly this size, which is quite annoying. I wish Zbrush had a feature for that, but that's alright. So that's pretty damn close. Let's just measure this. 3.8. So we've got to go down one more row here. So let's measure that. 3.3, yeah, that's it. And that's pretty damn level. Cool. So we put that on subtractive, turn off your polyframe, and there's our magnet hole. We can go make Boolean mesh there, and then just measure the inside here. 3.3, perfect. Nice. There's our ring and pinky finger. Do subtractive on the pinky cutter, which has been renamed for some reason. Select our pinky cutter and choose subtractive. Now we're getting the other side of the magnet. So we'll keep that there. We'll just hide them all. And let's go with the thumb cutter now. So subtractive, it'll do this. Intersecting, it'll do this. Same deal. Draw some domes on there. Making sure we're embedding them just a little bit more and holding control when you're dragging. So again, this has very little geometry. So let's go BZM and insert a few edge loops here. So wherever you want to insert anything, it'll be on a point. Yeah, that's good. BIH, half sphere. One there. Okay, let's duplicate this magnet and move it over here. And we'll put that onto subtractive. So maybe we can measure this now. 2.8. So it needs to go a little deeper. That's 3.3, perfect. So we've got our thumb now with the magnet hole in there. So let's make Boolean mesh. And now let's go back again. Put both magnets on to subtractive. Put both cutters onto subtractive. So thumb cutter. We didn't close holes. Nice. So we could make Boolean mesh now, and we've already got our hand split up. If we just append everything into a new scene here and just color things, there's our split up hand. So now we're gonna hollow out this middle part, the middle hand. So we'll hide these, duplicate the hand, make it a different color, turn on transparency, and we can deflate it to make that thickness. But what happens is all this nasty geometry, because this is what we're working with. I would dynamesh this. So 56,000 points is fine. And then let's try deflate that again. You'll still get some edge nastiness, but you can then go back to it, go solo, and either re-Dynamesh or turn on Sculptress Pro, get your smooth brush, and just go around and you can see what it does to this intersecting geometry. Fixes all that up, because that will be a nightmare. And then I would re-Dynamesh, and let's have a look at that. You want to check around here where your keys and magnet holes are, that you have enough room behind it, so that'll be the thickness of your print. What can happen is sometimes it comes through like this and you'll have a hollow point. You don't want that. So we'll just get the base here, mask that, and just drag it down so it's coming out of the actual mid-hand core, so it's cutting this cap off. And then if we turn on subtractive live boolean, there's our hollow middle core. So before we hit make boolean mesh, let's put our bolts in, the bolts we used on the 2-part mold. So we don't need any of these except for the 4 that are going in to our core here. So you can go auto groups, select the ones you want, invert, delete hidden. It's really important that these stay exactly where they were originally, otherwise your bolts won't line up. And then we'll put them on subtractive. There's your bolt holes. Then we can make boolean mesh. So now we're going to make the pour tube that will go into here, and the pour tube holder. So what you want to do is make a primitive cylinder. You can't sculpt on primitives, you should have this come up when you try to sculpt on it. Click this and go cylinder 3D, go down to initialize, and inner radius, just slide that. Don't play around with these others because it will distort the shape. Inner radius, you can measure this. So something like this, extend it a little bit, and then to start editing this, we can make Polymesh 3D. Let's color it, and we'll import it to this scene here with our hollowed out middle section. And depending on what kind of tube you're using, you really need to measure this to make sure it's going to fit. So this is 26 mil. Alright, let's say that our tube's going to be 25 mil in diameter. So we measure the inside of this. That's 25 mil there. So now we can start deforming it. So go to your bend curve and you're going to have all this stuff. So this yellow one will increase the amount of points you have to control. So at the moment we've got 3. If you add more, you get more control of it. We don't need too many. I think 3 is enough. So you just curve it like this and just press W to go between your deformer and gizmo. And we'll insert it somewhere appropriate where it's not going to get in the way of your bolts, and preferably you want to be pouring into your thickest part of your sculpt. Also keep in mind when you look from the top, you're going to have a PVC pipe coming straight up, so this is actually not facing straight up. So we kind of want to move this so we're looking straight down the barrel of that, so it'll be coming up through the middle. It should be enough room for our bolts. And we want to make sure that it's going through, or at least into, this hollow core. So that might require some extending. So just go back to your deformer. Maybe you could increase the resolution a little bit. Okay, there's our pour tube holder. Now you're going to be sticking a pipe in here. A good thing to do is have a little stopper. So go BZM and bevel on one of these edge loops, and then just QMesh polygroup all, extend that out so that it stops. Now this is a little wonky, so I'll probably cut this down, probably go knife curve and just cut it down to, too far. About there. So there's our pour tube holding thing. So we can also make our pour tube if you like, if you want to print your pour tube. Just cylinder 3D again, make it 25 mil. There you go, 25 mil. And then to make sure it fits 100%, you put it on top of your spout, your green pour tube holder. Let's hide this. Put it on subtractive with live boolean on. So our pour tube holder is not exactly the most accurate, but this will be, I hate to say it, good enough. And your pour tube will be coming out like this. So that's plenty of room for bolts, and then when you finish pouring you just pull out your pour tube and that's it. So to make this hollow, just BZM, insert edge loop, and basically do this, drag it out, same as here, and select the inner circle and just Q mesh that down. You've got a hollow 25 mil pour tube. So next thing, you want to cut away at this green pour tube holder. Call that pour tube, call this spout. So we're cutting away at that so the pour tube fits perfectly-ish. And then we also want to use our hollow hand core with subtractive on, drag it to the bottom, so we cut this spout exactly where it needs to be. Got our pour tube with subtractive on as well, make boolean mesh. So there's our spout. We can then go auto groups, delete that one, let's recolor that, call it spout finished. Come back to this scene, append our spout finished. Now you just need holes here for your silicon to go through. So again, append cylinder 3D, drag it right down, and how big is this? 7 mil. 7 mil is pretty decent. So just drag it out, make it not too long, about that much, just to go through the walls of our core. So we can move the gizmo holding down Alt, align it like this. So put that in, then just hold down Control and drag a few of these out. You can even shrink them down a bit to make room. Just want to be careful not to eat into your pour spout, something like that. Let's do one more small one here, and just make sure they're going all the way in, because some of these are not, like this one. So just move it in a bit more. This one's not. Let's move both of them in. So we can just test that out, let's call that pour holes. Put it on subtractive, turn on live boolean. There's our pour holes. You can make them smaller, it just makes it easier to, when you demold it, to cut it and have it conform to the shape instead of having one big hole. Now we're just going to go backwards a little bit and do the touchdown. So we'll just make this a boolean mesh first. Done. Call it mid hand core, and then we'll just append our touchdowns and our front and back parts of the mold. Probably want our thumb and pinky. Last thing, you want to find your touchdowns. Oh, they were already on here. So if we just go auto groups and just select them, mask them, and just go split mask points, do it with the back of the hand mold as well. Auto groups, mask, split mask points. Then we can merge down these two separate sets of touchdowns, merge down, and then close holes. So we may have to move some of them around, like see this one, that's a very bad spot for a touchdown. Just mask that, just move it over. Let's say there, you can have it taller, and basically we're going to bring them up above the two molds, the front and back, put them on subtractive, and now you can see the color green for the front. It's not touching down here, so you just move it up a tiny bit. Maybe try and find a flat spot without too much sculpt detail. So the flatter the better. Let's see the back. The back is brown, which is good. This is fine. All this stuff is fine. That means the mold's gonna fit together nicely. Okay, so I've got this. I might even add a few more. Maybe one on top of some of these. Just make sure it's going into your core, like so. Try to find a flatter spot, like that. Maybe add one more here. Nice flat spot again. And then you'll want to do one on this side as well. Shrink this one and just move it to this spot here. And while we're at it, the thumb would be good to have a couple as well. There's a good spot. And one on the other side. Okay, there's our touchdowns. So let's just do the middle of the core first. So hide your thumb and pinky. You're going to have these remaining ones. You can hide them easily later. So let's make Boolean mesh. Find that again. Now you just go auto groups, and everything that's separate will be a different sub polygroup. So Control Shift click on your middle part of the core and delete hidden. So if we just color that now, that's all good. We can append spout finished as well, because we forgot to do that. There's that. You can just merge down. So that's pretty much finished. Now we'll go back here, wherever that is. Here we go. So now we'll reveal the thumb and pinky, hide the middle hand core. Do them both at the same time, and then you can just separate them. Same thing again. Auto groups, select that. We can mask that. Select this one, mask that. We can hide these floaters, delete hidden, and then just group split. So these two are different groups. We'll just split them in split, group split. Okay, so there we go. Guess we can color them. So we'll append our middle section, and that's kind of it.